In today's episode of Trace Velo, intrigue. Wow, that is a nice box. Glamour. Right, these wheels look awesome. Drama. Oh, that is not good. And product development. Oh wow, look at that, that's much better. So stick around, this is gonna be a really good episode. Right then, ladies and gents, Sirocco coming back in to sponsor another one, which is cool. So yeah, I wear the Sirocco bib shorts and jerseys on basically every single ride that I do. So they got a slightly more premium range, like these SRX Pro jerseys here. Really nice, lightweight fabrics, kind of more race-inspired fit. And yeah, they're really, really comfortable on the bike. But if you want something a little more budget-friendly, their M2 jerseys are really nice quality as well. And importantly for me, you can just throw them in the washing machine and they wash really well. Like this one here. I must have worn this 100 times, something like that, and you can see the black color hasn't faded at all. So yeah, their jerseys are really, really nice. But I wanted to have a chat about these glasses here. So let me stick my helmet on. So these X1 photochromic glasses are so good. I wear this very pair on every ride I go on actually. So they go from basically completely clear to a really nice tint within like 60 to 90 seconds. So I do a lot of my rides as the sun is setting actually these days. So rather than taking out two pairs of glasses or at least a spare sort of clear lens to pop in when the sun goes down, you just got these for all conditions. Now they're nice and comfortable, easily fit underneath the helmet, and they've got some nice vents along the top to stop the glasses fogging up. And they're like just over 50 quid, well worth it if you ask me. So if you wanted to check out any of the Sirocco gear and also help me out a little bit around here with what I do, then there's a link in the video description that'll get you 10% off the entire site, which is yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, enough of that, and let's check out these spicy wheels behind me. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another. Oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't actually order this. Yeah, I ordered the ravioli. Trace Velo production. My name, as always, is yeah, it's Luke. Right, weight, ladies and gentlemen, not the ever-crushing weight of my many failures, but the pursuit of weight lost from my bike here. Now, back when I built up this bike behind me, I picked out a set of wheels from a seller called EliteWheels on AliExpress, and they're these wheels here. They are legitimately the cheapest carbon wheels that I've ever bought, and at 265 quid for the pair. Yeah, these are pretty damn impressive. They look great, rode well, and ran true for thousands of miles, and while they were relatively competitive in the weight department at 1600 grams for the pair, yeah, there was definitely room for improvement. So Fastsports entered the ring with their Ventoux S wheelset that I reviewed last year. Yeah, 45mm deep carbon rim, carbon spokes, and a mighty impressive 1,395 grams for the pair. But today, ladies and gents, EliteWheels are back to take the crown. At 1,313 grams, these Drive 50D wheels from EliteWheels, easily the lightest wheels I've ever used, but life at the top is, yeah, it's never straightforward, and I've certainly learned a thing or two along the way with this wheel set. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. But before we continue, worth pointing out that I haven't paid for these wheels. I received them free for the purposes of review. So yeah, there we go, full transparency for you lot. But yeah, anyway, enough of this, and let's crack on. Right then, here is the front wheel for this particular wheel set. And first and foremost, let's talk about the rim itself, the carbon rim, because it looks incredible if you ask me. So the Drive logo here, I've got it in silver, and it's not actually a sticker. It's underneath the clear coat, so it's not going to peel off or anything like that. But you can also get this in black as well if you want something a little bit more stealthy. Now the carbon layup looks absolutely fantastic, at least the carbon on the surface. Yeah, unlike anything I've seen before really. I'll throw up some pictures because I don't think it's going to really come across properly on camera, but the weave is so interesting, catches the light in such an interesting fashion. Yeah, you've got to see it in person to appreciate just how good it looks really. So these rims here, I've got them in 50mm deep, and they're disc brake specific, but you can also get them in 40mm deep, something a little bit shallower, a little bit lighter as well. And yeah, these come in rim brake versions too. Right, so these rims are tubeless compatible, and that's how I run them. I run tubeless tires. And when I was setting them up, it was so easy. I mean, the tires also stayed seated on the rim when they were deflated, which is usually a great sign that the rim itself, the tolerances of manufacture are quite tight, which is great. Now the rim bed itself, the holes are drilled through the rim bed, which I actually prefer than a kind of sealed up rim, because it means you can quite easily service the spokes and service the wheel. Now they provided some rim tape in the box with these wheels, and the rim tape itself is really nice quality, which aided me in doing a pretty fantastic job of sealing up this rim bed, which is cool. Also, I'm trying this stuff out. I've not used it before. I'm usually a Stans guy, but I'm giving this orange seal a go because loads of you in the comments swear by this stuff. So yeah, giving that a go. But overall, yeah, tubeless setup with these wheels, easy peasy. However, the coolest thing about these rims is actually how wide they are. So the outer width of these rims is 28 millimeters with a pretty girthy inner width here of 21 millimeters. Now, just for context, I'll pop those down there. A much more traditional kind of set of rims, like these ProLite Bracciano wheels that I picked up on Wiggle a number of years ago. I ran these for years and years on my road bike, but the outer width of these is 19.6 millimeters with an inner of just 13.2. So yeah, these rims here could basically fit inside these rims with kind of some room to spare, basically. But why is a wider rim better, and why is the industry pretty quickly moving towards this kind of wider rim profile? Okay, so while I'm setting up the shot here, if I could ask you to subscribe and maybe hit the like button as well, if you haven't already, that will be amazing. Just kind of helps appease the mighty algorithm. Yeah, it just gives me a little bit of a boost. So thank you in advance, and let's get back to it. Now, Francis Cade recently did a great little video on the topic of wider rims like these, and I'll link that up in the corner there. But essentially, in a nutshell, wider rims mean you can run a wider tire at a lower pressure, which essentially has two main benefits. The first is that the slightly lower pressures means the tire can more easily deform over the small imperfections in the road surface, essentially decreasing rolling resistance, which makes you faster. And number two, lower tire pressures are just, they're more comfortable to ride on overall. Now, you could just go ahead and slap a much wider tire on a narrow rim and then drop the tire pressures that way. But the issue with that is the tire then has a tendency to light bulb. And when the tire width extends beyond the width of the rim, it then creates turbulent air behind the tire, increasing drag and slowing you down. So a wider rim eliminates this problem, creates a nice smooth transition between the tire and the rim profile. So in essence, a wider rim like this means you're faster and more comfortable. So it's a win-win, really. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, on these aluminium ProLite rims that I showed you earlier here, I used to run 700 by 23C tires on these things at anywhere between like 90 to 110 PSI, so something like that. Whereas on these new drive rims, I'm running 700 by 28C tires, so a much wider tire, at like 65 PSI, so close to half the pressures that I used to run on these rims. And the difference in ride quality is enormous. So yeah, it's much more comfortable, and it's probably one of the reasons I can get away with a fully carbon saddle on my bike. Okay, so the rims for these wheels are freaking tasty, if you ask me. But let's talk about the spokes quickly. Now, the lacing pattern for these wheels is quite interesting, actually. So it's a 2-to-1 lacing pattern on both the front and the rear wheel. So on the non-drive side, the front wheel here has 14 spokes, and then on the drive side, it's got 7. For the rear wheel, the drive side has 16 spokes, and the non-drive side has 8. So quite an interesting lacing pattern. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that these use carbon spokes, which are stronger and lighter than steel. So you can use less of them to save a bit of weight, and they deform less under the same load than steel spokes, which makes for a stiffer wheel overall. Now, EliteWheels provide a few spare carbon spokes in the box with them, and I've got them here. And having a look at these, they seem to be constructed in exactly the same way as the spokes that were used on the Fast Sports rims that I previously reviewed. They have aluminium fittings on each end and look like this in cross section. Basically, the inserts, the fittings on each end, they're not glued in place, but they're actually a physical interference fit on the end of the spoke. So basically, these spokes here are incredibly solid. The design of these spokes basically means that unlike a traditional carbon spoke, well, a traditional carbon spoke, which are normally bonded to the rim and to the hub as well, like these super premium lightweight Meilenstein wheels here. These type of spokes essentially mean you can lace and construct the wheel in pretty much the same way as normal. So if you come to kind of damage or break one of the spokes, you can just take one of the ones that you kind of get spare in the box, pull out the damaged spoke, pop a new one in via the pre-drilled holes in the rim bed there, and you don't necessarily have to send them off for an expensive service, or in the case of the Meilenstein wheels, scrap the wheel entirely if you break one of the spokes. So I really like these type of spokes. I've ridden them pretty much consistently for the last 18 months, close to 2 years, with absolutely no issues at all. So I've got a lot of faith in these type of spokes. In fact, Joe from China Cycling recently did a video showing just how strong these types of carbon spokes are. He actually managed to crack open a beer with the spokes whilst a windspace wheel was kind of spinning around. It had these type of spokes, and he just jammed the beer in there and cracked the top off. Proving two things: that number one, these type of spokes are incredibly strong, and number two, Joe is an absolute astronaut opening beers with windspace property. I've got a lot of respect. I've got a lot of respect for that. So I'll link it up in the corner here. So check that video out later if you got some time. But I also did a quick check of the spoke tension around the wheel. And although this Park Tool app that I'm showing you isn't really calibrated for these type of carbon spokes, so the stated kind of tension reading is probably off, the readings are nice and consistent round the wheel, which after 500 to 600 miles that I've put on these is definitely a good sign. So essentially, these spokes are really great, and I think it's only a matter of time before we see them included on wheels from the big boys like Mavic or Envy. Now let's quickly cover the hubs on these wheels. So they're really nicely machined from aluminium. They look great, and they're easily serviceable as well. These ones that I've got on my set of wheels are center lock disc, although you can get them in 6-bolt as well, and you can get the axles and bearings out super easily. So these end caps on each side screw off with a wrench. Really easy to service the axles, get the bearings out, all that good stuff. Now let's do a quick free hub sound test here, so have a listen. So they sound pretty tasty, but they are certainly loud. People definitely hear you freewheeling up to the lights with these on, that's for sure. Now the free hub itself, this is aluminium, which is to be expected on these kind of lightweight wheels, and the bearings they use are actually a hybrid ceramic bearing all round on both the front and the rear, which is pretty cool. Now, EliteWheels told me they spent a lot of time deciding which bearings to use. They tried bearings from TPI, NK, SKF, and they landed on these hybrid ceramic bearings from a manufacturer called S&S. Apparently they were the best ones. Now, if you wanted to get into a bit more detail as to why they chose them, I'll link an article down below which goes into a bit more detail. But I'm really happy. They seem fantastic. They roll really well. The seals are good. S&S seem to have a good reputation in the industry. So as far as I'm concerned, really good choice of bearings. Now, the weatherproofing for these hubs, it's pretty minimal actually. Now there are a couple of seals around the end caps and on the free hub, but it's kind of a trade-off at the end of the day, right? The more seals and gaskets that you have inside a hub, the higher the friction will be as it rotates around the axle, and therefore it'll have a higher rolling resistance. And these are race wheels at the end of the day. They're designed to be as fast as possible, so I can kind of understand why EliteWheels chose to go light on the seals for these. But having said that, I have ridden these in some pretty grimy English weather over the last month or two, and they've been absolutely fine. So just be careful, keep the hubs clean, and kind of dry them out after a wet ride, and you should be golden. So first impressions with this wheel set are, they're great. They look incredible, they're nice and lightweight, and they feel super fast out on the road. But shortly after getting them on the bike, a little issue cropped up. Okay then, as soon as I got these wheels in the post, they were out of the box on the bike and I was out the door. And for the first few miles, they ran amazingly and they felt really nice. But after about 60 miles, I noticed an issue with the front wheel, so I shot this little video. Alright, so I've got a funny little sound emanating from these wheels. Apologies for the shoddy camera work, but hopefully you might be able to hear it. Have a listen. There's like an intermittent clicking sound. I'm not too sure what it is, so I'll get home and I'll check it out. It might be the ceramic bearings, I'm not too sure. So as soon as I got back in off of that ride, I got in touch with EliteWheels and I sent them this video. So I just got back from a ride. I think one of the bearings is shot in the hub because it made a clunking noise. And have a listen to this. So it still spins freely, but you can hear that a clunking. It almost feels like the bearing is just loose and kind of clunking around inside the hub. Hopefully that's coming across, you can hear that clunking noise. And it's definitely coming from the hub, which is a bit of a shame actually. So yeah, let me know what to do and let me know if you know what the problem is. Now, EliteWheels got back to me super quickly, like within the hour, and they knew exactly what the problem was. Now, at the time, I just assumed the ceramic bearings were the issue. I mean, I'm just so used to people talking trash on ceramic bearings within the cycle industry, myself included, I guess, that I just assumed the bearings had given out, but they are totally fine. So yeah, let me show you what the issue is. Right then, apologies for the egregious crotch shot here, ladies and gents, but the issue is actually, yeah, it's on the front wheel and it's with the hub, or more specifically, if I zoom in, it's the actual cup that the bearing on the drive side of the hub sits inside. So this little housing or cup that the bearing, it sits in there in this machined bit of aluminium. What's happened is that over the time riding it, the diameter of that cup has been kind of stretched open ever so slightly, like a hair's width, maybe a bit less. And you can hear now the bearing, it kind of rattles inside there. I'll try and cut in some footage of the movement because it's very slight, but it's enough to be really annoying, and it kind of judders under braking as well. So yeah, bit of an issue here. Okay then, so when designing this front hub here, what they've tried to do, they've clearly tried to maximize the distance between both the spokes and the bearings on either side of the hub, presumably in an effort to kind of increase the lateral stiffness of the wheel, but in an effort to reduce the weight of the hub as much as possible. There's not much aluminium, not much meat left around the bearing on the drive side of this hub. So pair this super lightweight aluminium hub design here with these really high tensile carbon spokes that are perched on the very edge here. Yeah, and it's led to this area of the hub warping ever so slightly, as I kind of demonstrated earlier. Now I tried to fix it by packing some grease in there and tightening up the hub, but nothing really helped and the issue kept returning. I even thought of throwing some Loctite at the issue because they produce a compound that's specifically for this use case, but yeah, EliteWheels advised against it, and instead they sent me their updated hub design. Okay, so this is their new optimized hub design, and it's on all of these wheels produced from around early April this year onwards. So if you got a pair of these wheels, they'd come with this hub on the front, and you can see the spokes have been moved inwards about 1 millimeter or 2. Okay, so I'm just sat here editing and reviewing this footage. It doesn't actually look like they've moved the spokes. So what it looks like they've done is, you can see this end cap here is a lot thinner or stubbier on the updated one than it is on the original one. You can see that's a lot kind of thicker there. So what that's allowed them to do is then move the bearing slightly further outwards, so it's no longer directly underneath the spokes like it is on the original hub here. So combine that with the fact that there's just a lot more aluminium, a lot more meat in this area of the updated hub. Yeah, definitely some good design choices. And you can see the spokes have been moved inwards about 1 millimeter or 2, and there's just a lot more meat in this area to brace against these high tension carbon spokes. Now I've ridden these very hubs here for around 500 or 600 miles on some really crummy roads and bunny hopping off curbs and stuff to give them some abuse, and these bearings are still nice and solid in there. So EliteWheels have fixed the issue. They've changed the design, and they also told me they've been in contact with all of the customers that have those older style hubs that I showed you to make them aware of the issue and also arrange a replacement hub if that's something that's required. So yeah, I have been genuinely very impressed with them throughout this kind of whole saga. I've been in direct contact with them the whole time. They've been open and honest with me. They've not tried to hide anything or anything like that. And they've also, at no point did they ask me to avoid this topic in the review. So yeah, big props to EliteWheels on this one. Yeah, obviously not an ideal situation, but they've dealt with it in the best way possible, in my opinion. So yeah, anyway, all that aside, I guess it's time to traverse into the final thoughts. So the hub issue aside, what do I think of these wheels? Well, I'm 600 miles there or thereabouts into this wheel set, and I think they are really, really good. I mean, they are super lightweight, super stiff, and they feel really fast when you're out on the road. Combine that with the fact that I can now run a larger tyre at a lower pressure, it means that the kind of ride quality and the ride comfort out on this bike is so nice. Round here in Oxfordshire, the road quality can be pretty dreadful in places. Lots of potholes and chopped up tarmac, but with these wheels on, yeah, I find it makes all the difference. I'm so used to seeing rough patches ahead, sitting up out of the saddle to kind of brace for impact and avoid the potholes and stuff. But with these wheels on and these bigger tires at kind of lower pressures, I find myself staying in the saddle more, keeping the power down, and for that reason, my average speeds have definitely gone up a little bit, actually. But importantly, I don't feel like I've sacrificed the agility of the bike. You'd think with kind of wider tires at lower pressures, the bike would feel a little bit more mushy, but it doesn't at all. These still feel super snappy. They're nice and lightweight, obviously, so great in the sprints, and climbing with these feels really nice as well. So yeah, I absolutely love these wheels. I feel like they were designed specifically with the English B road in mind. But as I'm sure you can appreciate, they're not going to be the cheapest set of wheels that I've ever kind of featured on this channel. But compared to the Zips and Envies of this world, I think they're pretty great value. So they're 1,189 bucks, or about 950 quid. However, if you use the discount code that I've slapped down there in the video description, you can save 15% on that. So that's 1,010 bucks, or just over 800 quid for these wheels. I challenge you to find a comparable wheel set for anywhere close to that price. Plus you get a 3-year warranty from EliteWheels as well when you pick these up. So yeah, for 800 quid, these are definitely worth a look if you ask me. Now, I'll be keeping them on the bike for the time being, so I'll get some more miles on them. And if anything changes, I will let you know. Right then, that's all we got time for. So subscribe if you like this kind of thing. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. And if you've got any questions or comments for moi about these wheels or carbon wheels in general, then yeah, pop me a comment down below and I'll try my best to get back to as many of you as I can. Anyway, what's the time? That's right, I put it an hour forward since the last time. So it is 7:10. It's getting dramatically close to tea time. Cutting this very fine. So I'm gonna go get something to eat, and I will see you all in the next episode. So I'll see you later. Ciao, ciao. Hua, hua, hua. Ciao, ciao. Okay, so a little sneak peek for those of you that stayed around till the end of the video. So these are the wheels that I used to build up my gravel bike in the last video. So pretty standard fulcrum wheels, aluminium rim, steel spokes, nothing too special about these, but I've since upgraded to these. How cool do they look? So these are a one-piece carbon fiber construction, 6 spokes each. Yeah, really, really cool. So review for these coming up, and I'll chat to you later on.